Hello everyone, welcome to another video, and today we are going to start chapter 9 of General Science of class 10, that is Heredity and Evolution. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. Before we move on to understanding the different principles of heredity and evolution, let us first understand what do we mean by heredity and evolution. Now, what is heredity? Heredity means to pass on characters from one generation to another, or to acquire characters from the previous generation. That means your parents giving some characters of theirs to you, and you in your next generation giving your characters to your offsprings, that is your children. Now, passing of information from one generation to the next is called heredity. Now, there are some questions regarding this which need to be answered. When we pass characters from one generation to the other, that means the father is passing some information, the mother is passing some information to their kid, then why does not the kid look exactly like their mother or father? This is one of the very vital questions that come into our mind when we talk about heredity. Now, why does that happen? For this to understand, we must first know something about cell division, which you have studied a little bit in class 9, and there we had studied about mitosis and meiosis. Now, out of these two, the meiosis is the one that is responsible for cell division of germ cells, and by germ cells I mean gametes, or your sperm and ovum, sperm and egg. These gametes divide with the help of meiosis. Now, during meiosis, what happens is a gamete is formed. Suppose your father forms a male gamete and your mother forms a female gamete, the male and female. Okay. Now, these will contain some chromosomes which you have studied previously. Chromosomes contain DNA. So these gametes or germ cells will contain some chromosomes. This will also contain some chromosomes. When they combine, they form a complete cell, which is called a zygote. Zygote comprises 50% of male and 50% of female characters. So it is a combination of both the parents, and a zygote is formed. This zygote will then go on to form a complete organism, that is a human being. For example, me. My parents have given 50% of their characters. They have formed one cell. This cell went on to divide again and again and again and gave rise to a complete individual. So this means that 50% character came from father and 50% character came from mother. There is male and female, and the blend of these results in the child. Now, which character will be expressed? That is an important thing. As for example, suppose let us assume that my father had brown eyes and my mother had blue eyes, for example. Now, which one will I have? Will I have a brown eye or will I have a blue eye? That depends on which character is more powerful. Now, powerful is not really the term. I am just telling powerful just to make you realize what it means. Powerful or dominance, which we call dominance. Some characters are dominant over the other. That means they are more powerful. So they will express themselves compared to the other character which is present. As for example, let us suppose that brown eyes are more powerful than blue eyes. So suppose my father gave brown eyes and my mother gave blue eyes, then in that case, since brown eyes are more powerful, I will have brown eyes. Okay, so it depends on which character is more powerful than the other. That means which character is dominant and which character is recessive. Recessive means the one which is less powerful. So in this case, blue will be recessive and brown will be our dominant character. So in this way, various millions and millions of characters are passed from the parents into the offsprings, and out of those, the one which is more powerful, there is always a combination. So in every combination, where which one is more powerful will express, the one which is less powerful will be shut down, it will not be expressing itself. So that is how the characters are inherited from our parents. Every organism inherits some characters from their parents. Some are expressed, some are not expressed. So that is how characters are expressed in case of organisms. Now that is about heredity. Now why do we have a difference in Everything. I mean, why don't I look just like my father or just like my mother? Suppose my skin color. My skin color will be something in between my father and my mother. It is not something like it will be exactly like my father or exactly like my mother. Now, why does that happen? Why don't we have our characters exactly similar to our parents? That is because of a term called variation. Now, why variation takes place? And remember, this term is also important for evolution. So, why variation takes place? Variation takes place because of some inefficiency in DNA copying. Now, what do I mean by DNA copying? Now, in order to form these gametes, that is the germ cells, our cells need to divide. By cell division, meiosis is a type of cell division. So, in order for cells to divide, we must form one cell will give rise to two more cells, right? So, that means the DNA present in this cell should also divide and become double, right? The DNA must divide in order to form new cells. Now, when the DNA divides, what happens in this case? There is one DNA and this DNA will give rise to another DNA. That means one DNA is exactly copied into the next DNA. That is how DNA copying is done. While cell division, DNA copies, and DNA copying is done means from one DNA another DNA is formed, which is the replica of this one. The problem is this copying is not always 100% efficient. As a result, during this copying some errors take place, and because of these errors the variation comes into play. That means whenever your parents are giving you some character, suppose their height, suppose your father is tall, your mother is short, in that case you get both the genes. You get the tall gene from your father and you get the short gene from your mother. In that case, which one will be expressed? Suppose tallness is more dominant compared to shortness, so you will become tall. But is your height exactly the same as your father's? No. Why? Because of this error. Means you have got the gene which is meant for tallness, but there are some differences as a result of which you don't attain the same height, exactly the same height as your father. You might be taller, you might be short. In some cases there may be exact same heights, but these are not the general criteria. Okay. So in some cases you will be either taller than your father or shorter than your father, but you may be tall in general, but it will not be exactly the same as your parents. So that is because of this error in DNA copying. When one DNA copies to form the other, there is some error, and that causes the variation. Now, why did I say this variation is important for evolution? So evolution means when there is one organism and after thousands of years that organism changes to something else. That is evolution. For example, let's consider human evolution. The first organisms which we considered as our family of human evolution were Homo naledi. Now this name is just for reference. Even if you forget, it is not an issue, but it will be good if you remember. It is Homo naledi. Okay, Homo naledi were the first of the human generations, means the human beings, which we are Homo sapiens now. Sapiens is our species. Homo naledi were the first of the human race. Now, do we look exactly like the Homo naledi? If you go into the internet and search Homo naledi, you will see that we are not at all similar. That means we have remained Homo. That means we are of the same genus, humans, but we have changed ourselves based on the requirement of the environment. Every environmental change will result in the change in the organisms living in their environment, and that the ability of an organism to adapt to certain changes in the environment is called the evolution. So every organism evolves based on the requirement of the environment. So we have also evolved over thousands of years, and that is why it is not that we are not evolving right now. Obviously we are evolving right now as the environment is changing, but it is not visible to our eyes because the process is extremely slow. Over years and years and years of evolution, years and years and years of changes accumulating together, after thousands of years our changes will be visible. When we compare organisms maybe 500 years ago or maybe 1000 years ago, and you compare organisms right now, that's when you are going to see a small difference. You go 10,000 years back and you are going to see a bigger difference. So that's how evolution goes on. And evolution, in order to change, that means we are changing, right? We're evolving means we are changing, and for change to take place, variation must be present. So that's how variation and evolution are linked. Variation is present in every generation. You will change from your father. Your son or your daughter will be different from you. So we are changing in every generation, and this change accumulates over thousands of years to bring in some sort of evolution, a change, a major change that is visible to the eye. So those sort of changes are called evolutions, and these are some of the basic things that we need to know about heredity and evolution. So this video has been an overview of what do we mean by heredity and evolution, and how some of the basic things are how these things take place. In the next video, I am going to talk about Mendel's experiments, and we are going to see what are Mendel's laws of evolution, first law, second law and third law. He has 3 laws of evolution, what experiments he did and what we can learn from those experiments. We are going to learn a few terms like traits, acquired characters, inherited characters, and some other characters like dominance, segregation, independent assortment. These are some of the terms that we are going to learn in our next video. So I hope you understood what I explained here. If you have any doubt regarding whatever I have said, ask me in the app or in the WhatsApp, or you can call me up, so no problem regarding that. So thank you everyone for watching this video, and until next time, cheers.